So guys, a couple things that I guess maybe improving, changing about the way that we do our weekly live streams. So the Monday live stream is focused on, as we often say in our industry, capturing the zeitgeist. Trying to get an understanding of where everything's moving right now. Where are we Bitcoin dominance wise? Where are we in terms of different cycles? What are some people investing in based on a certain theory or another theory? What kind of DeFi fundamentals are we interested in? All those different things. I mean, even more things that I could possibly mention right now. That's the focus of the Monday stream. And the idea is that we'd have a conversation about that. So you guys are always welcome to join me on stage and discuss with me. Jason, our meme coin expert, is going to be on vacation here for the next month. So you'll mostly be seeing me and other members of our community like Theo. Now, that said, on Wednesday, we're going to have more of a formal classroom experience each Wednesday. Now, the way that will look, similar to last week, although I'm going to try to open up the floor a little bit more to question and answer throughout. But similar to last week, we're going to check out a protocol live. We're going to explore it together and basically set ourselves up for future gains. Now, will that necessarily happen? It's tough to say. I've certainly gotten involved with a lot of networks like Polygon and Optimism, Arbitrum early on, where I got big airdrops or big appreciation later on. I've also gotten involved with a lot of ecosystems like Aptos, where I've seen zero appreciation from the ecosystem. And if you want to see that example, take a look at our From the Vault video from last week. Theo, I see you joined me on stage. Welcome, sir. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you are muted. Black. All right, well, we'll see him up here in just a second, guys.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here. So, Theo, I went ahead and grabbed all those links you were sending me over the course of the past few days, and I threw them into a tab over on the side here so I can share those one at a time and we can talk about it. And I was just talking about how the whole point of this is to figure out, because obviously all of us are in crypto already. So we already own some Bitcoin or some Ethereum. And ideally, we've got a balanced strategy set up where the foundation of our portfolio are those hard crypto assets that we can really count on. I'm talking like Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe Solana. Now that Trump, based on the things he's just said, maybe that includes XRP and ADA. I don't know. But those are the, top market cap assets that I'm talking about for the foundation of our portfolio. But then as we move up, those are going to be our real growth assets. Those are where we're going to see our 10, 20, 50, maybe even 100x gains as we increase risk. So that said, I'm going to share my screen here, but I'm actually going to kind of hand it over to Theo to explain what's going on with each of these headlines as we go through today.
I'll do my best.
All right, perfect. So first one, we got Ray's Roundup. Now, tell me a little bit about, this is the news roundup, and this one is from today, from this morning.
Look, I haven't actually gone through these yet. So the first one is Trump signs executive order on digital assets that directs the president's working group to move forward on a crypto reserve containing Sol, ADA, and XRP, also BTC and ETH. I think everybody noticed that yesterday. There was a God candle of over 10K. We've since been retracing that overnight. I've had my longs hitting their take profit or their stop loss levels. How did you do on this God candle overnight? I think that was the largest weekly gap on CME that we've ever seen.
So just like full disclosure, my wife and I, we're working on buying a house right now. So we're like in huddled down mode where we got like all this cash. We're about to spend it to be able to get the house, and it's our first house purchase. So it's a pretty big deal for us. That said, in the midst of this, we're seeing these amazingly low prices. So my wife and I, because it's not just me, my wife supports me through everything, and we've been married for over 7 years. So throughout the course of these 7 years, we have become hardened about the market. So when we see the price go down, when we saw that 80 grand level, we're digging through the couch for change. We're like, all right, what can we do? And we put together a little basket of funds, and we threw that all on Bitcoin. We got in at $81,000, okay? And that is only because of the mental toughness that her and I have both trained in about the markets over the years. So did I know for sure that it was the bottom? I mean, I certainly had an inkling that it was. But of course, if I knew for sure, I'd have got it in 80 or maybe even a little bit lower, because, you know, we saw a little bit lower than that. But I feel like I did pretty good. That said, my appreciation in value during the God candle was due to what I did during the discount. So I wasn't like actively playing the market that day. I sort of anticipated it though, right? I mean, that's why I got in at around 81. But that's how you should be thinking, guys. When you see these fast crashes, and I think Ivan explained it the best, where he says, look, if it's a slow bleed, that's one thing. But you see a fast crash in Bitcoin, that is a buying opportunity, like pretty much every time. And it turned out to be exactly that. I also like what he said today, where he was talking about how, I don't know if you saw his show today or not, Theo, but he's talking about how, look, stop being critical of which crypto assets are included in the reserve. Just say thank you for having a reserve at all. And I kind of agree with that, guys. Look, rising tide raises all ships. We have no reason at all in this industry to be critical of the specific assets he picked. Now, would it make sense to make sure you're holding at least a modest amount of each of these? Possibly. That would certainly be one strategy. I will say that of the assets he mentioned, there's none that I have zero exposure to, but my exposure is very light on the XRP and ADA areas. Now, Sol, I got pretty big, heavy Sol bags like a lot of us, and you guys know that. And if you want to know what I'm doing with them, then check out those staking videos on Solana. I'm actually about to drop a video. I probably should have released it on Friday, guys, but I'm about to drop a video on Solana, getting back into Solana following the FTX crash. And it gives you just amazing perspective about, you're like, what? Like, these prices aren't low, because I know a lot of people were like freaking out at 130 and they're like, oh, we used to be at like 200 or whatever for a Sol. Now we're at 130. And it's like, we used to be at $35 for one Sol, or maybe even less than that when I started recording those videos. So I will release that this Friday, so you guys can take a look at that, get some perspective about that. But all it really tells you is the same thing we've been saying the whole time, that any price below all-time high for Solana is a great price, because we expect it's going to go way above that. And yeah. But Ed, thoughts on that, Theo?
Yeah, I think I was selling a kidney at the 78K level. But yeah, I think it'd be really cool one day. Cool's maybe not the right word, but remember, Sol went down to $8 last cycle. Imagine if we got $8 again and we could just load up the bags with tons of Solana. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Oh, yeah. You know, I remember it being at those levels, and like, I was in a position where I could have bought a lot more, but nobody really believed it was going to come back. It was like, seriously, like dangerous territory. Like, half the assets on it had no value. And it was because they were secured through FTX, like wrapping and things like that. And they've mostly rid the network of that. I mean, you call it like cancer. And what I'm talking about, guys, is when you have an asset that's been bridged, but then the original asset is gone. Okay. So what happens then to the value of the wrapped version? It doesn't matter what it's called. It could be called the real secure Bitcoin that never loses value. But if it's pegged asset, the one that represents its value, is gone, it's still worth nothing. And that's the problem that still exists to this day in a small sense within Solana. They've done a good job of getting away from it, and it'll get better as time goes on. But I mean, that's where we came from. So no, I had people messaging me like, oh, Phil, is Solana going to come back? And I was like, it's already demonstrated that it can come back from way worse than this, so I don't know why it wouldn't, you know. And it's like almost hard for me to say that to people who are like, well, I bought a bunch at 190 and now I'm, you know, like and not to name any names, but people say to me like, Phil, I bought $100,000 at 190, it's at 130, what do I do? And I have to tell them, like, I don't know. because I don't know the rest of your portfolio. I'm not a financial advisor. I can't tell you. But what I will tell you is, do I think 130 is a good price to sell your Solana at? No, I don't think it is. I just don't feel like it is. That's usually what I'll tell them. But I mean, lo and behold, where are we now? One Solana.
157.
I was just gonna grab the to the minute price, but yeah, 156.98, 157 exactly, pretty much. So yeah, here we are coming back. And same thing across the board, guys. I expect Ethereum will catch up. This is not anything that I can show you right now, a bunch of figures on, but based on what I've observed this cycle, especially, it feels like following a major appreciation in Bitcoin, especially within uncharted territory, meaning when it's setting a new price level, when it's in price discovery, that Ethereum will respond to Bitcoin's price discovery by entering an even more aggressive price discovery. Okay, or pushing harder towards all-time high, since it hasn't quite beat that yet. So that's what I'm anticipating, guys. If you want to know, like, all right, Phil, what's going to happen with this Bitcoin Ethereum thing? I don't think it's worth our time to look at the liquidity pools today, because we've already done that a bunch. It hasn't changed all that much, unfortunately, yet, guys. But what I'm expecting, Bitcoin breaks through 100K again, continues on towards 150. Which you guys have heard me say is my conservative ceiling. Once we break 150, then I'm going to start to give you guys some new theories about where I think we're going from there. And it's based largely on how quickly we get to 150, how much support we establish along the way, how many pullbacks we have along the way. Like, all these things matter. If we go to 125 and then we pull back to 100 again, and then we go to 125 and we pull back to 100 again, and we do this like 5 times, and then we go to 150, that's actually better for us than if we just go straight to 150 tomorrow. Because then we have that proven support. Then it's almost like, all right, we're never going to go below 100 again. I don't know, though, guys. So that's kind of what I'm waiting to see. And we'll reevaluate that at that point. But as we move towards that 150K Bitcoin price, I do expect that Ethereum will set a new all-time high. Meaning that it will basically, and this is where I think that this is like important information to consider. Like, if you disagree with this theory, that's fine. But I think that this is the bullish scenario for ETH, is that Ethereum right now is undervalued by approximately 50%. And as Bitcoin realizes its potential this cycle, meaning that move from 100K to 150K, Ethereum will close that gap, meaning set a new all-time high. What does it do from there? No idea. But that 50% gain there, that seems pretty conservative to me, based on what we're seeing here. I mean, the truth is that Ethereum could have any time started to really, really depreciate in dollar value throughout this cycle. But frankly, we haven't seen that. Its dollar value resilience is fine. It's better or as good as the market in general, I guess is what I'm saying, with being, at a basically even for the past year and a half here.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, Theo?
You can see on the chart there, it's sitting there on support. And Ethereum does have a higher correlation coefficient with altcoins, right? So we did a stream yesterday with Matt Smead, and he said that when altcoin season happens, it'll be led by Ethereum. And looking at it, I do agree with that, because the correlation coefficient of Bitcoin versus alts, or Ethereum versus alts, Ethereum is much closer in the coefficient. So yeah, when altcoin season comes, it'll be led by ETH, or at least ETH will mirror it. But I do think we're going to get the Bitcoin season first, is usually what happens, right? So I guess, there is an announcement today. Trump's making an invest announcement today at 1:30 p.m. today, Eastern Standard Time. I don't know if that's going to be a sell the news event, but Bitcoin needs to pump over the next 10 months or less, hopefully a lot less. And we don't know what's going to catalyze that move up to 100K again, or 150K or higher. Hopefully, maybe there's a supply shock or a supply squeeze, and all these states and countries start buying up all the Bitcoin supply, and there's actually a Bitcoin shortage, and that could send the price to insane levels. But it's very unknown right now what's going to cause that pump if it does come, or the bull market's over. We don't know, right? You have to consider both sides.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that with respect to how my positions are established, that I'm not actively with my portfolio entertaining the possibility that the bull market is over.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always said that to you guys. Yeah, I now, does it mean that I will be in trouble if the bull market is over? I don't even like to talk about it, but does it mean that? No, it doesn't mean that. And the reason it doesn't mean that is because I don't rely for my livelihood on cashing out my positions. And so that's an important consideration. You know, if you're Carl from the Moon or somebody like that, then and you're living off of your Bitcoin, it matters a lot more. So like he needs to consider that today. Like, is the top in? Because if it is, he needs to be cash heavy, because otherwise, how is he going to survive? For me, I don't need to. I can handle the Bitcoin drawdown. I can handle a 50% Bitcoin drawdown, and it's fine because I know it's going to go back up. And so that's like the big determination there. Now, I thought this was interesting here. Crypto czar David Sachs reveals he sold all his direct crypto investments. Now, first thing I would say is that this sounds to me like a very, very intelligent move on his part if he is about to identify specific assets that should be included within the strategic reserve. And if he is, then he needs to be able to say under oath that I do not own any of these assets directly. Now, does that mean he doesn't own Bitcoin ETF? Of course not. He probably does. In fact, if I were him, I would hire somebody like me and I would say, look, man, here's $1 million or whatever he's working with. Buy crypto for me. Don't tell me what you're buying. I trust you that you know what's going on in the market. I'm going to work on this regulatory space. I'm going to work on this because I believe in the industry. I'm going to make decisions about specific assets. And because I'm an ethical person, I need you to not talk to me. I need you to just be involved in the market and tell me nothing. And we'll talk in 4 years. And that's it. That's how it has to be. Now, did he go to that extent? Maybe he did. I don't know. But to me, him selling his direct investments is to avoid a conflict of interest. Now, if he truly believes in the industry, there are other ways, like what I just described, that he might invest in the industry. And so long as he keeps that sequestered, and I would trust his judgment on that he can act with impunity in this situation. Bridgeforth, welcome to the stage. Do you have thoughts on what we're talking about? The ability to act with impunity while also being super pro crypto in general? Oh, I think you're muted right now.
Okay, is this better? Is this better?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. Well, a quick thought about Sachs. He is, if anybody ever listens to the All In podcast, or was a listener before he got appointed, you'll know this guy is extremely dedicated and extremely principled in his positions. So he has taken unpopular positions against the 3 other hosts of the All In podcast many, many times. He, from what I can tell, put a lot of money up to help get Trump elected, even holding a major event at his own home in San Francisco. Can you imagine, for Trump? So I think this is somebody that will probably stay behind his principle, and I think that's good for crypto. My only second thought would be this: whether or not we are at the epitome or the height of the market and everything's down from here, none of us ever know for sure. But I think you can look at the warning signs out there and go, look, the others haven't even had their run for the most part. Sure, I understand Solana did and a few other exceptions, but for the most part, all the standard things out there, the chain links, the nuts and bolts of our system have had zero, nothing, nada, really. And so it's hard for me to imagine, even though I'm not going to say I'm all in and I would die tomorrow if, because I live on my investments, but I certainly would take a hell of a hit, but I'm willing to take that risk because I just don't see the only way that we're at the top of the market is in spite of countries taking action, in spite of the legislative wins that we've had, in spite of all this, consumers turn up their nose and go, yeah, we won't invest our money, in crypto. That's loserville. I just don't see that.
I don't tend to be a conspiracy theorist in general. I just don't tend to be. I mean, I like to listen to all sorts of different opinions, but at the end of the day, my belief is that the vast majority of people are just doing their best, but that no one is really in total control of their circumstance or anyone's for the most part. Totalitarian societies aside, I don't know. I've never lived within one of those, so I don't exactly know how they operate, but not firsthand anyway. But within that understanding that everybody's just doing their best, and that the product of the world we live in is a product of everybody doing that, I don't think that it is possible for the most wealthy entities in the world to perfectly manipulate the Bitcoin price. And if we consider that it's not possible for them to perfectly manipulate it, then we have to consider the possibility that currently we're enduring their best attempt to manipulate it. I think that Wall Street would very much like this to be the market, the cycle top. And if they want it to be the cycle top, they have a lot of capital, especially with the existence of a Bitcoin ETF, that they can use in order to help influence the price. And of course, there are ways that this can be done illegally, and there are ways that can be done legally. And I'm not a Wall Street guy. I'm not a Wall Street expert, so I don't pretend to know all the ins and outs of that. But suffice to say that they do.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, there is probably some market manipulation. Oh, nonetheless, look at this. Look at President Trump for a minute. Does he like underpaying for things and getting good deals on behalf of the American people, or do you think he wants to pay too much? He wants a great deal. And if he's got the strategic reserve right now ready to tank up, just back up the truck, do you think he wants to be buying Bitcoin at 150?
Exactly.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I think that there are some creative ways in which the strategic reserve could be maintained through time. It'll be kind of interesting to see what they actually do. Could it be that there's a tax credit they could give to power plants in the United States that install mining facilities next door?
That's a great idea. That is a great idea.
Okay, because power plants are an example of infrastructure that's massively expensive to not only integrate, to start, or to build in the first place, but then to maintain. It's massively expensive. Like, they're always fixing power lines. They're always redoing something that's old because it's just broken and too old. And then you even see like horror stories where they don't maintain these things, then it causes a forest fire or whatever. But the point is that when they are every single year spending a massive amount of money at the current market rate to maintain their infrastructure, it actually isn't that tall of an order for them to expand that to cryptocurrency mining, specifically Bitcoin.
So
in fact,
my question.
It might be one of the best industries to do it. Now, I don't know what their overhead is like, but that's what banks are for.
Well, here's a question around that. Imagine that the U.S. has the capacity to become the world's largest miner. Do we want that? Imagine that you have President Kamala Harris. We are the world's largest miner. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a conspiracy theorist because I don't even know what kind of damage they could do by being the world's largest Bitcoin miner. But just something to think about. I don't know. Maybe I'm a paranoid guy.
Well, okay. So, like, the concern might be we haven't talked about 51% attack in forever, right? So the concern might be that if the US actually controlled enough mining power to control 51% of the hash rate. But the truth is, if that happens, isn't there going to be like, Russia and like a couple other countries that together would control more, just band together to do it? It sounds very much easier said than done.
Yeah,
especially in this day and age.
I think you're right. Now, the question is, just to play this out, imagine you are, I don't know, you're some bureaucratic type idiot that hates crypto. What could you do with a 51% advantage?
What you can, okay. So there's a couple things you can do. If you control 51% of the hash rate, first of all, you get to mine all the blocks. So the first thing that you need to decide is that somehow it's more advantageous for you to exploit the system and change it than to simply mine more Bitcoin than anybody else and quickly become the wealthiest entity in the world. So like controlling 51% of the hash rate isn't actually a problem if the person or group just decides, you know what, I'd rather just have the money. Because if they break Bitcoin, then any Bitcoin they're holding all of a sudden becomes less valuable because they lose trust in it. They'd really be better off just to take the money and then do whatever they want with the money. Advance whatever cause they care about, whatever. Like, it just makes more sense. And
well, they are the same entity they are the same entity that's ruining the dollar, though, right now at their own peril, I think.
Well, fair enough. So if you believe that they wouldn't be concerned about that, what you can literally do once you control 51% of it is that you get to pick which transactions get mined and which don't. So if you control 51%, you get to mine and nobody else gets to mine. Like you mine, no one else. Nobody else has enough hash power. Nobody can beat you. And so as a result, you can do things like, every single time this entity submits a transaction, we're going to delete it from the mempool. It won't matter that all the other nodes are still holding it. I can do my own mempool manipulation. So mempool in Bitcoin is like RAM memory. It's not committed to permanent storage yet. And so if you can manipulate the mempool because you're the only miner, then you can censor transactions. You can also double spend money because what you can do is you can send somebody money and then quickly delete those blocks and remine the chain where you didn't send it to them. So they'll see on their device confirmations, but then when the blockchain is reorganized, the money will go away because basically they favored a version of the chain that didn't include that transaction, which you can easily do if you're 51% control of the hash power. You can't do any of these things if you don't control 51% because the other miners will keep you accountable. They'll see that you're censoring a transaction and they'll just mine it instead. Unless, of course, the fee isn't high enough. But then it's not really censorship. The fee wasn't high enough. If you're a 51% attack, you could censor ones even when the fee was huge. You could just refuse to mine it. And nobody else is going to mine faster than you, so nobody else will ever take back control of the chain. Now, that said, even in that situation, all that would have to happen is somebody would have to produce more hash power, and they could take control of the chain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a deep rabbit hole. Thank you, Phil.
Mm-hmm.
I will step down now.
It's one of those things where in this day and age, there's enough participants with different agendas that we don't really worry about it. And the truth is, if one entity, let's say for like half a day, could take over the chain, never mind the fact that it would cost them $100 million to do this. But it like in electricity, it would cost them $100 million, not the hardware they need to do it, just electricity cost. And if they could somehow did all this, what would happen is the governments and node operators of the world would be like, okay, this crazy person did this crazy thing for one day. Let's just roll back the chain one day and tell everybody to redo their transactions from one day. Would it be a huge pain? Sure, but we've done it before.
Wouldn't it fork
Has it been done with
the chain?
Bitcoin before?
Yeah, technically. It happened with Bitcoin because there was a double spend error in the early days.
Oh,
It's like 3
yeah.
years into Bitcoin. And they had to roll back the chain because basically it broke itself. Double spend meant all of a sudden, if you kept using that chain, forget about 21 million. There's whatever you want to produce. There was infinite number of Bitcoins. So they had to do it. And so that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, you'll have severities of situation. If it gets to a certain level of severity, do we roll back the chain and just kind of like close our eyes and forget about it? Yeah, we do.
All right,
But-
one more question. You just brought up something really good. What do we know the government likes to do? In fact, all governments almost inflate money. Is there a way, if they had 51%, they could decide to create an exploit where they make it 41 million, then 81 million?
Here's the thing about that. When you have forks, it's only the real one if everyone follows it. So you could even have this situation where an entity gets 51% control. Everybody knows it. They just update to a different wallet that excludes that participant somehow. And then we just keep going. And so like they start building their own chain that nobody's using and it doesn't even matter. That's kind of how blockchains work. Like, there isn't any reason why, especially with less secure chains where maybe you only have like 20 miners worldwide mining the chain. You get these situations where you'll have the Asian chain and you'll have the US chain. And the reason it happens is there's too much latency between the nodes. So they just start to mine their own versions of the chain. Now, would they eventually merge? Maybe. Depends on the code behind the chain and how it's developed and things like that. It's technically possible.
The original Ethereum proof of work network is still sort of out there, I think, called POW something.
Yeah, exactly. So like, and granted, nobody uses it. Everybody decided the stable coins on it aren't worth anything, and things like that. But yeah, it still exists. And so long as there's one person mining it, it'll always exist. Well, actually, I think technically you need 3. It depends on the rules of the network. Most chains will not allow the same node to mine every block. It'll basically just have a hard rule into it that says, like, if you mine the last 3 blocks, X number of blocks need to be mined before you can mine again. I don't think that any Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of the major chains have that, but I've seen it on some of these smaller experimental ones.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Phil. Very enlightening as usual.
Glad to help. And yeah, it's super interesting stuff. I mean, I just don't personally, remember how we talk about money as an idea? And if money is an idea and Bitcoin's an exercise of that idea, and then we do something to Bitcoin that makes that idea break down, won't the majority of us just continue to use the one that represents the idea better? I think so. Maybe that's a little idealistic. But the incentive for doing it is monetary, though. So I don't know that it's unreasonably idealistic. I think it's just that right amount of idealistic where it's like, well, it's incentivized. So you could be the greediest guy in the history of the world and you still might play fair because you'll make money. And so that's where I still, believe that it's going to work out. But yeah, in a lot of ways, it's an experiment. I'll say it's better experiment than the fiat experiment, though, if you haven't heard that one before. Let's move on to some of these other headlines while we still have time here. Oh, NFT Eve's asking to come up on stage here. So this one here, that's also about the... Oh, I think that's the same one.
Welcome
and then... Can you hear us?
Who, me?
Yep. Welcome.
Okay. Hey, everybody. GM. I just wanted to know if you want to know my Trump coin theory.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Because we're about to talk about that a little bit here, I think. Anyway.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I'm just like super bullish on Trump coin. I was stacking at the bottom a bit. And I think that Trump coin is going to be huge. Number one, because anyone who wants to suck up to Trump, which is basically the whole world one by one, is going to be like buying and owning his coin is going to be a way to even connect with him. Be like, oh, I own so much Trump coin. And then also just the fact that He's always playing this 5D chess, and he's preparing when he's finished being president, to make billions on his coin. So I'm just very bullish on it. That's all I have to say. Interesting stream, you guys.
I'm taking a look here for those of you guys who are following along to see how our Trump pools are doing. I think it's a different wallet here I need to connect.
I had another question about pools, because I was gonna I bought the Trump bottom, and then I was like, maybe it's better just to buy Solana and make a pool. I didn't know if there was a bottom crash like we had last week, if that's a good time to set up a pool, or it doesn't matter.
Pools like so you're always going to do the best with your pools during sideways movements, and especially if the sideways movement has the most energetic activity within a very specific range that you picked. I know that's like a mouthful, right?
Like Bitcoin versus
basically,
Ethereum?
Right. Basically, what you want to do is you want to maximize the number of trades within the tightest time frame possible. Problem is, you don't know how many trades and you don't know what price it's going to trade at. So you're making a prediction. Now, if you can predict the area that will be the most sideways in the price between the two assets, you will, without a doubt, make money so long as that period is equal to or longer than the rest of the period. So if your period is 1 day and you get deposit liquidity for 24 hours, and during 12 of those hours, it's within your range and your range is very tight, and then the other 50% it's not, you're going to do a lot better than just holding the asset in most cases. Now, obviously, there's exceptions to that. If the price at the second 12 hours does a 30x, well, you're not going to capture that because you're providing liquidity. So as it does that 30x, it's going to quickly move outside of your range. It's going to leave you with the less valuable of the two assets, and you'll have a small amount of fees. But if you saw sideways the entire day, that's where you're going to see, oh, if I just held the asset the entire day, I would have made nothing or maybe even lost money. Whereas here, I've benefited from all these trades. So yeah, what usually the only time you'd want to add liquidity at the bottom is if you thought it was going to sit at the bottom for a while. Otherwise, you're better off just buying the asset, selling it when the price goes up, if you're sure it's the bottom. And I know it's hard to be sure. And I just want to take a look at this. Okay, so I believe these positions were about $25 each when we established them. So quite a ways to go here until we get back up to where we were, but we'll keep an eye on this as it appreciates and hopefully get back to a good position with that too. So this is where I wanted to talk about. I hope you guys have had a chance to check out Sonic and Monad. Now, we haven't looked at Skate or Abstract yet. Have you, Theo?
A little bit on Abstract, but I've never even heard of Skate. I'm curious about that one.
We'll check them out. I may do we might check one of these out on Wednesday, guys. I need to make sure it's going to work in the format, but if it does, we'll check out one of those. If you're interested in Monad, it's in testnet. Check out last week's video from Wednesday. We are earning rank within the ecosystem. So I'm using two wallets. Here's one of my wallets. And you can see I'm ranked pretty good. I know we got a member of our community who's within the 1%. I'm not quite there yet. But what I would recommend with this, guys, is just make sure you're pushing a couple transactions every day. We give some examples of some of the ones that I think will be effective, but it's really tough to know until the airdrop actually comes. I know this is a very hyped project, but I wouldn't let that get you down. Optimism and Arbitrum were extremely hyped projects, and they had very nice airdrops for strong participants, like $2,000 or $3,000, which is very, very nice. So is this going to be like that? I don't know. But I've got an inkling that it'll be worth our time. So I would get started with the test net here. Keep in mind, all the time you spend on the test nets, no guarantee of any kind of return. Those assets are not worth any money, so you shouldn't be paying anything for them. You should be able to claim them from a faucet for free. Sometimes you can get them from other community members if you're working with them as well. But don't ever pay money for test net assets. And check out that video from last Wednesday if you want to get started with that. All right. Let's see here. Oh, this is NFTs over on Sonic.
Yeah, just a Sonic NFT. Looks pretty expensive too, actually.
Haytham, I see him in the chat here, was talking about NFTs over on Monad Testnet. And he even sent me a link to one over the weekend. And he's like, Phil, mint this this time exactly. But I don't have my computer at that exact time. And apparently the mint sold out in 2 minutes or something. So I missed it. I wish I hadn't. But yeah, these NFT mints on testnet and newly launched networks, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. One of the things I heard from internal conversations with our team is that a lot of NFT creators are really interested in some of these networks that maybe we did testing on in the bull run course, but never really came back to. I'm talking about like Zora and stuff like that. Any of you guys use Zora? If you're NFT creators, I know it's really cheap, but I'm kind of, NFT Eve's going to have something to say about this. All right, you're on stage. Go ahead.
Oh, hey. Yeah, so I'm an artist and I'm in the NFT artist world, and a lot of the artists have been minting on Zora for a while. I never did it because there was always some problem, with it was just too hard, but it's probably easier now. It's a huge one. It's huge in the NFT world.
Now, I know it's big in NFT world. I know it was created as like an NFT type chain, like specifically, targeting that audience. What I wonder is it just a lot of people minting over there? Or are there people actually like making money selling their NFTs over there? Because it sounds like it's really popular for minters, but artists aren't buying other artists' NFTs. They need the collectors over there.
Yeah, I don't see. I'm not collecting them, so I don't think so. I think a lot of, especially in the NFT world, all of the platforms want you to go mint on their platforms, and it's just so much work. So I'm a little bit of old school. Like I'm literally on OpenSea, and I'm like, it's so out of fashion for like 2 years now. But I'm sure
it's a little bit silly to me. Like, why don't and maybe a chain like Zora is the solution to this. But why don't we just have like a unified EVM NFT chain where it's like, look, the NFT can be on whatever chain you want. Mint a little tiny contract to every single one of them if you want. But it's like, why do we need to worry about bridging NFTs anymore? Why can't we just mint it all over the place? I don't know if that's the solution, but
there is one that's been out for a long time. I can't remember the name of it, but it starts with an M. And people do that. But the problem also is like who's going to promote your NFTs? Who's going to get it in front of other people's eyeballs? So
right. Well, maybe we need like Axelar to do like I think their protocol does work for NFTs, but where you can make it multi-chain and people can put it on whatever chain they want. Because that's the thing at the end of the day. And I just don't think we've gotten there yet as an industry. But picking a chain, this is something Ivan said a while ago. And like it made sense back then, but it really makes sense now. Picking a chain is like a personal preference. Like, and I'm not talking about between me and somebody who doesn't know crypto. I'm talking about us folks in crypto, guys and girls who are in this industry. Like, you owe me $1,000, right? Or let's say I owe you $1,000, and you're like, hey, Phil, can I get that money? I'm gonna say to you, yeah. Which blockchain do you prefer? You like Optimism, Arbitrum? Do you like Tron? What do you like? And I'll just pay you using whatever one you like. And yeah, maybe it costs me $3-4 if I got to bridge it or something, but it's not a big deal because, whatever it was you did for me, maybe you painted my house or whatever. It probably cost more than that, but you painted my house or whatever. And I need to pay you. I'm just happy to give it to you in whatever way works for you. And that's where, like, yeah, we can solve this through software for the new people who are coming in. But let's start to recognize as people who use this stuff every day that it is pretty easy, guys. It's pretty easy to send somebody money who knows what they're doing when you know what you're doing. In fact, I prefer it to the banking system 100 times over. Like, I know where the money is the whole time. Like, in maybe years ago, I felt like it was easier to make a mistake with crypto, copying the address. Man, I haven't felt that way for so long. It's so much easier to make a mistake with the banking system. And when you do, it's so much more of a pain. Haitham, welcome to the stage. How are you doing today, sir?
All good, thank you. How are you?
Very good, very good. Well, I thank you
Alright.
again for your help over the course of the past week with sending me some test assets on Monad. I've been
Very welcome.
doing some good testing over there, and I hope some other people in the community have too.
Yeah, of course. Actually, I have an idea that we can try. For example, we were talking now about NFTs. So on Magic Eden, anyone can create an NFT collection. So we can practice like on Monad. So for example, you create a collection, just one image, and we mint it for like 0.01 Monad from the testnet, and you will get the funds in your wallet like direct. So it's super easy, and then you get to experience how to make an NFT collection. And we as a community, if everyone has his own collection, and then more people will see that this NFT is minting, maybe they get also more like Monad tokens, you know. So we can
Absolutely.
yeah, so we could experiment with that, and also like, you know, Magic Eden, maybe there is a second airdrop, you never know. And maybe when the mainnet is out, then people can make also their own NFTs, and we can help each other, and then get more attraction. Maybe we can make more tokens that way.
So I'm thinking, because with this one, I think I can do an NFT that you guys can come in then and mint yourself.
Exactly.
Let's try that on Wednesday, because I don't think it'll take the whole stream. So for Wednesday, if you want to participate with us, guys, your homework assignment, and this one, you know, I can easily say, go do this. I advise you to go do this. We're working with testnet tokens. None of these have any value. So I highly recommend and advise that you expand your education by interacting with the Monad testnet. Will you get an airdrop? I don't know, but you're going to learn some things. And on Wednesday, we're going to learn how to make an NFT collection. And then we're all going to have the opportunity to mint an NFT from that collection. So before Wednesday, you're going to want to add the Monad testnet. So head on over to Monad. Let's see, is it this one here? Monad.xyz. And I would recommend using either MetaMask or Phantom wallets. I've tested both of them and they both work great. If you select Join Testnet and you're using MetaMask, it's going to give you an option right here to import all of the settings. And then after you manually add the network and select Continue, it's going to bring you to the airdrop section. So you'll put in your address here and then you're going to receive an airdrop. And as a result of that airdrop, you will be able to mint this NFT that we do on Wednesday. So looking forward to that, guys. That'll be a lot of fun.
I will just
Thank
add
you for
one more thing to motivate people.
Yeah.
I saw when Abstract went mainnet, so people were trying to make activities on the mainnet, so they minted a lot of like just random collections. And I've seen some of these collections, they just posted like CryptoPunks, they posted like Pudgy penguins, and they made like $800,000 or $1 million in just one day, because people are looking for new interactions on the mainnet. So if we experiment now, you can get lucky with your collection when you go mainnet.
So that's a good idea. Yeah, because people are just looking to interact on the new chain. Is Abstract, so Abstract's a new chain that launched, but they haven't had an airdrop yet?
No, but I saw the first day people were minting right and left, and I've seen a lot of collections that actually made a lot of money and just posting just random stuff.
I may do a video for Friday on Abstract. Try to shortcut that one, give you
They
guys
had
just
the
key
Pudgy
steps on it.
Penguins airdrop.
Oh.
Abstract is Pudgy Penguins, Pengu.
Yeah, but they should have their own
Oh.
token too as well, I think.
I see. Abstract is part of PENGU. What does it use for gas on Abstract?
Good question.
East.
ETH?
Yeah.
What's governance? PENGU?
They should make their own
So-
token. That's what I think of.
Ah.
Bengo is just giving them like you get more rewards for having Bengo on your wallet. But what I heard like everywhere on Twitter that they should just make their own token.
Well, I've still got the PENGU I got in my airdrop. I haven't touched it. I'm not planning on it. I figure I might as well just hang on to it. If it was worth more, maybe I would have sold it, you know? Like, I would have sold... I probably would have sold that whole thing if I got the airdrop that you got for having a Pudgy. You know, I didn't ask Ivan or Jason if they did, or, you know, it's their business. But if I'd been them and I got that full PENGU airdrop, I would have dumped that whole thing first day, rebought it later on. Because it's like, it was for me, it was like, oh, I got some PENGU token. Like, that was really cool because I don't own a Pudgy, I don't own a little Pudgy, and like I kind of want to be involved with the IP and the movement, and so I was excited. But if I already was like fully involved, like I own a Pudgy, then it's like sell it. And I think that's part of the reason why we're seeing that drop in price, because I think a lot of the Pudgy owners are kind of feel the same way. They're like, what are you going to make owning the PENGU token more significant than owning an actual Pudgy? Well, of course not. So there's disincentive to owning the or to holding for very long term the PENGU token if you have a Pudgy. Maybe I'm wrong though. Maybe they'll prove it wrong. They're going to have to do it pretty masterfully though to not alienate their long-term holders. And yeah, I mean this is part of why I think as time goes on with this expensive IP, it becomes more and more corporate, more and more a company. They almost have to, because all of a sudden they're protecting the value of all of their investors. It's like PENGU's not stock, or the Pudgy Penguins aren't stock, but there is no stock. So what is stock in this instance? You know, and that's what a lot of people are thinking.
Looks like Abstract Chain uses chain abstraction, so you don't actually see the gas. Like it might be Ethereum, but it's hidden from view. Seems. And there's no governance token, I guess.
Okay. So wait, who's in charge?
Luca Nets from Pudgy Penguins.
No, I'm being a little cheeky, right? Because you know, you get all sorts, right? You get a few projects that launch and they do governance and they really do follow everything that they're saying. And sometimes those projects have enough governance tokens among the core team that it doesn't even matter what anybody else votes because they can just vote for whatever they want. The other scenario is no matter what the community votes for, they just do whatever they want. Didn't we see that with Optimism? Or was it Arbitrum? One of the two, there was a vote and then they didn't do it. And people were like, well, why don't you have to? And they're like, well, actually, we don't have to. And and then you get even worse scenario would be, you know, that there isn't a governance token at all, I guess. I don't know which one of those is worse, but yeah, no governance. I don't love that. It feels so. I don't like the idea of there being like this movement towards permissioned chains where it's like I don't want to see a reemergence of trusted entities within permissioned or permissionless blockchains. So like right now, we're still in like, I've heard people say that we've moved into Web3, but it's like, if I can't authenticate my email with my Web3 wallet, then we haven't moved into Web3. Not fully. We're still in a Web 2 trusted authority world. And that's still the prevailing standard worldwide. Like it or not. And since that's the case, I don't want to see that make its way into blockchain. I want us to draw a line in the sand and say, look, if we're getting into permissionless realms, then maybe we have some trusted authorities that manage people keys for them. You know, the grandparents of the world are going to need some help with some things that are new. That is the course of human history. People will have a hard time understanding new technology when they're old. So we'll need to figure out something for them. But for the vast majority of us, like, figure it out. You know, do you hire somebody to come to your house to keep track of your car keys for you, or else we all lose our car keys sometimes. When you lose them, you find them. You have to, you know, like there's certain things in your life you have to keep track of. It's what being an adult means. And I think that at a certain point, we can start to say that about finance as well. And crypto lends itself in that respect better than anything else before. But yeah, I mean, there is a certain sense in which people can't continue to say, oh, why doesn't somebody take care of me? It's like, well, if you want somebody to take care of you, then pay for it. I don't want to pay for it. I don't want anybody to take care of me. I don't want anybody to have any control over ever moving my money at all, at any time, ever. So if I'm in a coma, they can wait till I wake up, if I ever do, if they want to move it. You know, I'm exaggerating, but that's a good way for us to wrap up here today. Theo, did we hit all the good points here on these headlines that you shared?
I'm not sure. I haven't even gone through them all yet, but all good. You know, we got the hour show, and if anybody wants to do an after party, we can always do that, of course.
Absolutely. I encourage that, guys. And sooner or later, I'll be joining you over there. I'll tell you, things have been a bit hectic for me because I'm in the midst of a move, as I've mentioned, but things are going good with it. So sooner or later, we're going to have a new studio for you guys here. So like this is going away, and it's going to reemerge in some other form. I don't know. I'm going to have to figure it out as we go. It'll be a bit of an adventure. But that said, I will be with you guys the entire time. I'm not going anywhere. I'm excited for where we are headed in this market. If you haven't heard somebody say it today, I do not believe that the bull run is over. I believe we're in the middle of a massive value expansion for our industry. And there's a lot of evidence of that. So that said, it's a great time to be checking out new protocols, because new protocols with a lot of attention, energy, and attracting a lot of TVL stand to make a lot of strong returns for participants. We've seen this before. I expect we'll see it again. If you don't know where to get started, that's what we're here to help you with. So we'll see you on Wednesday for the hands-on portion, and then I'll see you next Monday so we can get an idea of where the wheels are turning globally for our industry. Appreciate you guys who came on stage here, and for timestamping NFT Eve, Haytham, and Theo, thanks for co-hosting with me as usual. Did you have anything else for our viewers today before we wrap it up?
Thanks so much, everybody. No, I'm good. Take care.
All right, guys. Have a good one, and we'll see you in the next video.